Good morning. Today is the 29th day of Shvat, Erev Rosh Chodesh Adar, 5783. And it's also the 20th of February. But that's for tomorrow. Today is still Erev Rosh Chodesh.
לא, אתה לא מבין כלום. למה זה כתוב מי שנכנס? למה לא כתוב נכנס אדר? למה לא כתוב נכנס אדר? מה בשמחה? למה מישה? מישה stands for מי שבס מבורכים אדר. Mention. Me, Shabbos Mavorchim.
I'm not going to be the one who's going to poop the party.
That's a famous Russian Chabad saying.
Okay. And we are holding by page 81. V'zeu tov shechen karov. 8 lines from the bottom. V'zeu tov shechen karov.
I'll show you before I do that.
V'zeu tov shechen karov ze yitro. So the good neighbor, the close neighbor is Jethro. Shaya rachok liYisrael, that was distant from Am Yisrael. He's distant in terms of family. He's not family.
Well, he is. He's Moshe Rabbeinu's father.
That's afterwards. But again, he's distant, and even if he's a father-in-law, he's not a blood relation. But here he says it's not just the fact that in terms of family he was distant, but he was distant in the sense that he was the priest of all the impurity in the world. Again, when people think about impurity, it doesn't mean that they go and they do obscene acts physically, like sexually obscene acts. We're not talking about that at all. It could be idolatry. Idolatry is obscene. It's an abomination. Why? Because it would be like someone coming into a research lab and saying, "Well, no, all the glassware here, got all this glassware, all these pipettes and all these whatever. They all have to be broken before you can use them." So he takes everything and he crushes it, and then he wants it, and people would say, "What are you doing? What's wrong with you? We can't work now. We can't do anything." That's obscene. What you just did is obscene. Or he says something even worse. He says, "No, the only way this is going to work, any of your experiments, is if I first of all sprinkle everything with some flower pollen from something. I have to sprinkle it. It's contaminated everything. Nothing's worth anything anymore." That's obscene. Like, what are you doing? You're destroying all our work. In that sense, that's what it means, that all this idolatry has nothing to do with God. It's all these imaginary things that people have in their heads. That somehow if I do this, I'll manipulate it this way, and if I do that, I'll manipulate it that way. And why is it obscene? Because when you come to serve God, it has to be to serve Him and not yourself. So what they're doing is really that out of their own imagination of how they're going to manipulate reality, they create some theory. And that theory that now guides everything that they do. And that's obscene, because you came to serve Hashem, and suddenly you're self-serving. So all idolatry is like that. It's all self-serving, really. It has nothing to do with God. And then that becomes a big issue. Because the Jew knows that he's not supposed to serve himself. He knows that he's not working for the reward. He knows at some level, like the Rambam writes, he knows at some level that I'm not working for the reward. I should be working the Shema. Right?
Avodah Zarah was basically just an excuse to do your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
Now made treif, kosher.
Right. But still, what did he do? V'nitkarev, he became a shechen karov. He's not a blood relation, and he became karov. He became close. V'nitkarev v'nichna el kedusha, and he came close to holiness. What is holiness? Holiness is always chokhmah. It's always bittul. It's always that I'm not working for myself. Al yedei ze imshich b'chinat tosefet or d'yitron ha'or min ha'choshech davka, and that's why he was able to bring down new light, like we said, not just to the concealed Torah, but to the revealed Torah. And he added a whole parsha in the Torah. So that's why he is the Shechen Korov. והעניין, תנא ידוע שכל עניין ירידת הנשמה גוף הוא צורך עלייה. ואם לא כן, למה ירדה כל כך ממדרגתה כמו שהייתה למעלה, דכתיב חי השם אשר עמדתי לפניו, היינו שעמדה בבחינת ביטול האלוקות, באהבה ויראה, וירדה כל כך להתלבש בגוף ונפש הבהמית. So this is all related to the question, why did the soul come down into the body? If you remember, I mentioned this once, that from Peterburg and on, the Alter Rebbe has almost, I think, between 50 and 60% of his essays begin with this question. Why did the soul come down into the body? And because we're now going to be telling the story of each individual. And every individual has to see this on himself. That when his soul was before God, like Elijah says, Chai Hashem asher amanti lefanav. He swears in the name, he vows in the name of God, who I stood before. And the sages say, when did he stand before God? He says he's talking about the soul when it was still before he came into the body. So it was before God. What does it mean to be before God? Like we just said, to be before God is to be in the state of nullification. Pure nullification. And then the soul comes down from that state, which is pure nullification to God, to engarb within the body and the animal soul. So what good is it? Why would the soul agree? It says the reason the soul agrees is because it's for the purpose of ascending even higher. How? Shaliyadei, right? Third line from the bottom. Shaliyadei shemivarim taguf hanefesh habehemit shel shorsham mibchinat olam hatov, by refining the body and the animal soul whose root is higher in what's called the world of chaos, and the world of chaos is higher than where the souls come from. Rak she'yarad b'derech nefila v'shvira, but because it was so high, the way that it came down from the world of chaos, which is not really only called the world of chaos. The world of chaos is its end state. It became chaotic because it broke and it shattered. Really, it's called the world of points, Olam HaNekudim, that's its real name. So because the way it descended into our reality was by breaking, by shattering, so it needs to be refined, because now you have to put the pieces together. וכשמברם ומעלם לשורשן מקורם, על ידי זה ניטלה הנפש האלוקית למעלה משורשו. And when he's able to refine them and make them function again, so what is it like? It's like you have a car that was in an accident, and you've got all the pieces strewn over, and they're not. Some of them need to be retooled. Some of them need to be fixed externally. Some of them need to be strengthened. And in the end, you have to put it all together again, so that it continues, so it starts working. When you put it together, and the car is now fixed, you can go places you couldn't go by yourself. So that's the same thing happens when you refine the body and the animal soul, whose source, definitely the animal souls, is from the world of points, the world of chaos, the world that's shattered. Then the divine soul can reach a higher state than it was at before it came down into this world. And this is called the lights of the world of chaos within the refined vessels of the world of refinement, of rectification. And that's Yitron HaOr. The Yitron HaOr mitoch HaChoshech Dafka. And that's, as we said, like by Yitro, that this adds new light. ואם כן יובן, דמה שהנפש הבהמית שבישראל שלא נפל כל כך למטה, ומקום מקום על ידי שמבררים אותו נשלח תוספת אור. כל שכן על ידי שנכנע יתרו שהיה מתחילה ונפילה למטה, מטה מבחינת הנפש הבהמית שבישראל. So if this is true by every Jew's soul, that by refining the animal soul, the divine soul ascends to a higher level, all the more so by Jethro, who didn't just refine an animal soul, he took something that came really all the way down, meaning that its source was higher, much higher than even our animal soul. The animal soul of a Jew is taken from what we call the good side of the tree of life. But Jethro's animal soul was taken from the evil side of the tree of life. Sorry, I said tree of life, so I should have said tree of knowledge in both cases. וידוע דכל מה שנפל למטה מטה ביותר שורשו מלמעלה מעלה ביותר. And there's a principle that the higher something is, the further down or further far away it falls. And that's why Jethro was so far away. That's why he was the priest of all the manners of idolatry that were in that generation, because his root was much higher. And this is true, by the way, by every non-Jew. Non-Jews need to know this, that if they're able to convert, then what they can do is much higher than what a Jew can do. Okay? In the end, they can reach levels that Jews can't. The famous example of this is Jethro, obviously, the first convert. He's the very first convert. But there were many, many famous converts throughout history. Ruth is the second most famous convert. And she became the mother of the Jewish royalty. Without her, I mean, she didn't just contribute something. She is the great-grandmother of King David. Meaning it's the matrilineal heritage that he had. She raised his grandfather, she herself. So there's something very special and unique about someone who converts that a regular Jew cannot reach. And because of that, by the way, it doesn't always stick. There's a lot of people that convert, and it doesn't stick. And they go back to their world of chaos because it's very difficult. It's not a one-time event usually. It's usually something that's ongoing throughout their lives.
That puts them in a little bit of a mess, no?
Everybody's in a mess. Their particular mess is that like when somebody's married, so he has to decide to get married again every day. So when the person converts, he has to decide to convert every day in a certain sense. It's not that hard. It's not like marriage. It's easier. But it's still work. It's something that there will be times that he or she might feel that this is too much for them, even though they very much wanted this, because it's not natural. You're doing something that's very, very difficult. It's a famous thing about sometimes his biographers see him in a negative light, but I have it from Rav Steinzal, so you should see him in a very positive light. I forget his name. He's a very famous convert from the 17th century. Mochel. Shlomo Mochel. So he circumcised. First of all, he circumcised himself, which is not easy for. I think he was in his 40s, I think. And then he saw his duty as to go and convert the Pope. And that's how he died, basically. The Pope didn't think. He was the same time as the Beis Yosef.
No, Yoselman of Rosheim.
Who?
He was in the same time as the Yoselman of Rosheim, the famous Stadtland in Germany. That was Maximilian I. No.
The figures I usually counted, he's in the same generation as the Beis Yosef, the Arizal. He's in that generation. But the thing that's amazing is that he only lived 3 years after his conversion, because he was killed in the end by the Pope's guards or something like that. He was executed. So there was a lot of chaos there. Like he thought he could convert all of Christianity with him. He understood, like he had seen the truth, so he thought everybody could be shown the truth the way he had experienced it. There's a lot of naivete and hubris at the same time. There's a lot of pride there that you could do something like that. But in any case, in those 3 years, obviously he had studied before, but in those 3 years he made it into the commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch. I mean, how many Jews in history are at that level? And he did this in 3 years. It's something that's noteworthy. In any case, ולכן על ידי שנתגייר יתרו, דהיינו שבחינת חוכמה דקליפה נכנע, נמשך תוספת תורה, עד שיתר פרשה אחת בגל לשבת תורה. So like we said, because Jethro converted, then he coerced and he submitted the wisdom of the other side, the klipa, the impurity, and because of that he was able to add another parsha in the revealed Torah. וזהו שכן קרוב מאח רחוק. And that's why he's called a close neighbor, because he's not a blood relation, and he came from afar. So he became close, he became karov. Me'ach rachok shu Amalek. Then the far or the distant brother, that's Amalek. שלא די שלא נתקרב, עוד מונע ומעכב מישראל בחינת הטוב. Not only did he not come closer, because what was Esav supposed to do? Amalek had the opportunity to come and convert now. That was the whole point. Not only did he not convert, but he came and he disturbed and tried to prevent the Jewish people from coming to the good. What's the good? They were on their way to Mount Sinai to receive the Torah, and only the Torah is called good. En tov el Torah. Sorry. The Amalek ubchinat dat de klipa v'ubchinat achoraim. So now we're beginning to understand who Amalek is. He, as it says in the Arizal, he's the sphira of dat, of knowledge, consciousness, of the other side, of the impurity. V'ubchinat achoraim, and he sits behind the neck. So he's the neck, but he's on the back side. We'll see what it means in a second. V'hu inyan, and his name, Amalek, what it means, umalak et rosho mimul orpo b'chinat ha'oref. His name, Amalek, is like to, I don't know the word in English, I should have looked it up. Limlok. Limlok is what you do to a chicken. You don't shech the chicken literally. You squeeze, or a bird. Of course, we do because that when we eat it, that's how it is. But in the temple, they used to just the Kohanim would just from the back side or the front side. I don't know how they did it, but they would crush the from the back. So they would crush the neck of the chicken, the bird, whatever bird was being brought as an offering. So that's called limlok, and it's done specifically from the hind side. It's not done from the front side. So in any case, this is what Amalek does. He hurts you from the neck. He tries to cut off the neck. The neck is the connection between the mind and the heart. So we'll see this in a second now. We need to end, so let me just finish the sentence. ויצא להילחם עם ישראל בצאתם ממצרים וזהו טוב שכן קרוב. Okay, and he came to fight with us, and now he'll explain. So far, all he's told us is that Yitro is called the distant neighbor. The near neighbor, the neighbor who's close to you, but he's not a blood relation. And Amalek is called the distant brother. And so tomorrow we'll begin to see, he'll now explain what does this mean psychologically. What does it mean that Amalek is the knowledge of the other side, the sphera of dat, of the impurity. And we'll see exactly what it is in our processes, in our inner processes of the psyche.
Malicha was only with turtle doves.
Sorry?
Only with a dove, Malicha. Only one bird. Only one species of bird under Malicha by the Torah.
Malicha? Malika, yeah, the dove. Yeah. No, a chicken you can't do.